Good evening. This is Watchdog Ministries here, Jared Campbell. So we're going to continue our reading here in Proverbs 5. So we left off at verse 6 last night. So we're going to pick back up here in verse 7. So this evening we're going to be reading from the Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation of the Old Testament. So right here in Proverbs chapter 5, starting in verse 7, we'll end in verse 14. The parallels of sex outside of marriage. Starting in verse 7, it says, "Now therefore, my son, hear me, and do not make my words invalid. Make your way distant from her, and do not come near the doors of her house, that you may not grieve away your life to others, and your existence to the merciless, that strangers may not be filled with your strength, and your labors go into the houses of strangers. And you should feel regret at the last, when the flesh of your body is consumed. And you will say, how I hated instruction, and turned my heart away from reproofs. I did not hear the voice of my instructor and teacher, nor did I incline my ear. Little by little, I was in every evil in the midst of the church and congregation." Name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Beautiful. Beautiful. So we began, we was talking about prostitution. But prostitution here, right, it's referring to the engaging in sex outside marriage, which may or may not involve the payment of money, right? The sons of wisdom, they need to obey, right? So sons of wisdom need to obey him. Who's him? Christ, right? He's wisdom and his teachings, and stay away from sex outside marriage. Verses 7 and 8. It says, "Now therefore, my son, hear me, and do not make my words invalid. Make your way distant from her, and do not come near the doors of her house." So for the parallels are many. In fornication, a man becomes one flesh with numerous women, right? So in fornication, a man becomes one flesh, right, with numerous women, which is the end, which in the end brings what? Regret. And so it brings regret and a totally dissipated life, right? We can also see what St. Paul teaches in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 15 through 20, right? There is taught the same thing. Such a son will regret, hating the instruction and reproofs of wisdom, verses 12 and 13. And it says, "And you will say, how I hated instruction, and turn my heart away from reproofs. I did not hear the voice of my instructor and teacher, nor did I incline my ear." So, let's back up. So in fornication, right, a man becomes one flesh with lots of women, which in the end brings regret and a dissipated life. Verses 9 through 11, right? And it says in starting verse 9, "That you may not give away your life to others, and your existence to the merciless, that strangers may not be filled with your strength, and your labors go into the houses of strangers. And you should feel regret at the last, when the flesh of your body is consumed." Right? You can also see Paul's teaching in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 15 through 20. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 15 through 20. "Now such a son will regret, hating the instruction and reproofs of wisdom." That was in verses 12 through 13. We read those. "Furthermore, little by little, this lifestyle leads to other sins, which are evident not only to God, but also to the entire church." Verse 14, "Little by little, I was in every evil in the midst of the church and congregation." That's all I have this evening. So we'll finish up in chapter 5 again. We'll finish up in chapter 5 tomorrow evening. That's all I have. You all have a very blessed evening. Thank you all again for following. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be merciful to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, now and forever. Sages. Amen. The Lord is our shepherd. Good evening and good night. Watchdog Ministries, I'm always here for all of you. Have a blessed evening.